think we're live.
We are streaming live on YouTube. Welcome, YouTube. Happy Friday night.
Just a moment. And we're on.
Holy cow. Friday night is here. Lee Dunn, first one in the house. Hope you are safe, well, going to be well hydrated. Meredith Davis, welcome to SIP 48. Nelson Holden, I know exactly where you are, and I also know that there is not a frozen pizza on the counter, but there is a smorgasbord, the likes of which I think everyone would be jealous of. Nick Schramm, yes.
Can you see if you can allow people to turn their cameras on? I don't have that setting.
I don't even know where that setting would be.
It's underneath attendees.
I don't have that setting either.
Okay, I've got it.
Okay, good. Just welcoming some folks right now. Barbie Heffernan, hello. Chad Angelo, hello. Jim Brubaker, hello. Laurel Robinson, hello. Mark Shalinor, hello. Sean Manning, Payroll Vault, hello. I may say some people twice because there's a lot of material to cover and I like being redundant. Scotland Kiefer's in the house. Peter Glick is in the house. This is going to be a big one, kids. This is going to be a big one. The Rhone Valley is not easy to do. I already see chats beginning. My beard, the filter is terrible. I cannot get this Zoom thing off. I promise you next week for Cabernet debate, I will be clean shaven. Happy SIP day from Nick Schramm to the panelists. Before we begin, and we're gonna let some more people come into the room, just wanna give a shout out to a special angel who's going through a difficult time. I'd like everyone to send some heartfelt angel love, put some positive energy into the ether, because that's what we do. And I know we do it really well. So as we begin, probably should have had the music ready. Things are getting better. That is the extent of my dance ability because the Irish, we can't dance. It's an inside joke. But I want to tell you and yeah, my Bono and myself. That's right, Chan Angela, we can drink. The Irish, I like when Chad comes in. I'm sorry, move along. Okay. So let's get to the thing that I want to salute everybody with right now. Before I do that, if you want to turn on your cameras, because look at Denise. Look at Mission Control. She got all dialed up. This is what pre-COVID Denise looks like. Shower, hair done, makeup. So if you want to throw on your camera, throw your camera on. I am going to toast you because we've got an exciting program this evening, the likes of which is just so monumental to describe the Rhone. Eric and Laura Klein, how are you doing? Jan Kiefer is in the house. Good to see you. Doug Rutherford, thank you, sir, for jumping on. So excited to see everybody. Jim Brubaker's in twice. J.K. Jerica. I see some regulars. I see some new people. That's perfect. All right. So here's the scoop. It is getting better all the time. And I'll give you a shout out. Why don't I see anybody? I did tell you. Well, we play the tape. Please let people in. I said, turn your cameras on. My neighbor Linda's with us. Jim Brubaker. Linda, what's happening? We're trying to cram literally a 3-month study program into this evening's show with the Rhone. So please, Mission Control, could you turn the cameras on if they want to? All right. So here's the first thing I want to do. Barbie's in the house. Johnny Heff is in the house. Is recognize the fact that we all the angels made a massive impact this week. And I'm going to share with you the impact. When you guys buy wine, many of you have actually chosen a charity called Save the Family Farms. So Save the Family Farms, actually this week, the Napa County Board of Supervisors gave unanimous support to develop a new micro winery ordinance. So that's what they've been working for. That's what we've been trying to help them with. This will let them go ahead and potentially it's one step in the right direction of being able to taste and compete with the big boys. So every time you've purchased and actually selected Save the Family Farms, this is what you've been doing because it's only on contributions and donations. Obviously, regulators and lawyers and that sort of stuff is very expensive. So when you guys pick them, outstanding. So I'm going to raise my glass to you, and I would love everyone to raise their glass. Look at Scotland's got the same filter. I love that. Love, love, love. Cheers, everyone. Happy Friday. Smiles.
Oh, we're taking a picture?
Jim Brubaker looks like he's in paradise. Nick Schramm, there's Nick Schramm with the camera. All right. So let's talk about the Rhone. It is a very, very, I mean, I have pages upon pages of notes and scribbles in preparing for the Rhone. So it is a massive, massive undertaking. Anybody here, you can throw this in chat. You don't have to raise your hand or anything. Anybody ever been to the Rhone? Rhone Valley? I see a confused look on Jeff navigating technology face, Greasy. So there was a couple hands that went up. I'm quite jealous of that. But many of you will be extremely happy to know that in order to get this show on the road, to talk about the Rhone, we of course have to go to the Rhone. So since we had terrific success last week with regards to Google Earth, we're going Google Earth right off the bat, because this is rock and Rhone time, baby. We started it off with the Beatles, rock and Rhone. Rock, actually, look at the Rhone behind me. That's not Midwest agricultural corn and soybean dirt right there. No, that's the Rhone Valley. That's actually the Southern Rhone, to give you an idea of what those bad boys are growing in. So we are going to go right off the bat to Google Earth, and we're going to try to compare and contrast Northern and Southern Rhone, but show you what's happening in the Rhone, and then we're going to bring it back to Napa. So I know this is everyone's favorite segment. So raise your hand if you can see the globe. Barbie puts her hand up and then says no. That's spectacular. Let's try this. We're going to have to do this one at a time. This is not going to, this worked in rehearsal. There we go. Perfect. Excellent. Okay. So we are going to go right to France. And last week, if you remember Bordeaux, we talked about a river running through it. And we spent a little time over here in Bordeaux. This week, we're going to spend some time on the east coast of France in the Rhone region. So now when you look at this from this bird's eye view, Switzerland plays a role here because the Rhone River actually starts in Switzerland. So it comes down out of the Alps and actually then feeds into the Mediterranean. Interestingly, though, this distance from here to there is about 110 miles. But the Rhone is 500 plus miles in length. So that lets you know that it has a lot of curves to it. So when we go to the Rhone River, so when we go down to Avignon to just kind of start, here you've got Avignon down here in France. You can kind of see all of the mountains starting to take shape now.
What happened to that daybed?
Uh-oh.
Oh, it's great. It's comfortable.
Who's comfortable? Vienne up here, this is the Rhone Valley as it relates to wine. Okay. So the Rhone River comes out of the mountains up here, out of Geneva, north of there, feeds into this, and very far up north, it's wickedly steep. It's very, very steep cliffs, essentially down to the river. As the river progresses south, you can actually see how tight this valley is right in here. But as you move further south, it gets very wide. So it's two different areas, the Rhone. And then one area in particular is Hermitage. So Hermitage is in the northern Rhone. And this gives you an idea of just the steepness of the mountains. This is Denise's favorite, Hermitage. And it is, all of the hillsides and vineyards are terraced. Does anybody know why they're terraced? Hand raise or shout out an answer, or throw it in chat. Barbie has her hand up. I can't lip read. Well, I can lip read some words, but I'm not saying those out loud. So no one, Mission Control, does anybody have an answer in chat on why all the hill vineyards are terraced?
No.
Is it so that the dirt doesn't fall off?
Very good. So you can control erosion. Nick Schramm, send Nick Schramm $100, please. So yes,
Sean Manning will get right on that.
erosion. So could you imagine having these terraces not there? There would be no vineyards on these hills when you see the way Hermitage is. And I said rock and Rhone because of the soil. So we're going to take a little bit of a walk down to Hermitage right here and buckle up. This is where the nausea sets in. So now we can see Hermitage, the hill from the ground. Pretty steep, pretty cool vineyards, and a rock wall. This is not a rock wall that just got shipped in. This is a road that I don't want to meet head-on traffic on. This is another rock wall. So all of these rocks have come from the vineyards to build these walls. To give you an idea of just the intensity and lack of essentially soil nutrient in the vineyards here, it's all rocks. And then when I go to this gate and look up this vineyard, it's amazing that stuff can grow here, but somehow it does. And interestingly enough, they've been growing vines here for 2,000 years. So think way back to ancient Greeks. They've been planting vines here in the Rhone. It is a spectacularly beautiful area. It's an unbelievable river area with regards to cruising, luxury cruises. But it is a very, 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 and I'm going to say this again, rocky place. And that will be the last time I say anything about the rocks, maybe. But here you get another view of those terraced vineyards. It's spectacular. And we don't have anything really like this in the United States, but it's just a pretty neat area. And again, touring this on a river, that would not stink. So that gives you an idea of, from a Google Earth perspective, the Rhone. Let me know if there's any questions. Good, I like to hear that. All right, now let's talk about a tale of two Rhones, because to really understand the Rhone, you have to understand kind of a map of the two Rhones. And there is a northern Rhone and a southern Rhone. So the northern Rhone, if you can see that, I'll zoom it in a little bit because it's, you just saw Vienne on the map for Google Earth. This is the northern Rhone. Very, very thin. Oh, you're not seeing it? Hang on.
First day with Zoom.
Worked in rehearsal. There we go. Jim Brubaker, you're my production studio. You nod like this. Thank you. Okay, so now you can see the northern Rhone. As you saw on Google Earth, we were up at Vienne. Goes down here. Notice that there's very few AOCs along the northern Rhone. There's 9, okay? So what we just looked at was Hermitage here. There's Saint-Joseph, Cros, Hermitage, Saint-Péray. And then when you get down here, it stops and you get to the southern Rhone. The southern Rhone is massive. Only about 4 to 5% of all the wine out of the Rhone comes from the northern Rhone. So by simple math, that lets you know that 95 to 96% of all the other wine from the Rhone comes out of the southern Rhone. It is massive. So Côte du Rhône Village, there's a little bit of this in the northern Rhone, but when you see Côte du Rhône on the bottle, it's generally coming from this area. There's no special legal classification of certain quantities of varietals that have to be in there. It is often used to boost up other wines around the country of France to give them some oomph. But some of the more special areas that we're going to be paying attention to in this evening certainly is this tiny little appellation right here, Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So you can see Châteauneuf is right on the Rhone River. We're also going to talk a little bit about Denise's second favorite area, Gigonda, which is outstanding. But you get an idea of just how actually small the northern zone is and how big the southern zone is. 95% of the grapes coming from the southern Rhone is insane. So now we are going to try, this should work this time. Northern Rhone, steep. That doesn't stink. That's like, I think there's a similar vantage point at Ashland and Diversey up north near, no, maybe not. Could you imagine this in Chicago? They can't even plow flat streets. So this is why there's no mechanization here, right? This is all hand harvested. This is all very caretaking. And by the way, there's 5,000 growers in the Rhone, 5,000 in this area. It's the second largest region of wine production in France, the largest being Bordeaux. It has 71,000 hectares. And remember last week, I told you I do not like when people just say hectares. 71,000 hectares actually translates to 175,000 acres. That's actually the total size of the Rhone. Pretty darn big. So southern Rhone, let's take a look at that. That's one picture of the southern Rhone, far more spread out, still mountains, but the mountains are way off in the distance. And then this is southern Rhone behind me. So again, tons of rocks, big rocks. And actually, this is where the word terroir was coined, because each one of those appellations has its own terroir. And then the specialness of Châteauneuf-du-Pape is just a beautiful, beautiful place at sunset to be able to hang out, have some food, some great wine, sausages, good people. Châteauneuf-du-Pape, Denise is asking me what it means. If Denise doesn't know what Châteauneuf, okay, it was a plant. New home of the Pope. New home of the Pope. You could spend 2 weeks just researching the religious impacts of this region. So when you think about how much influence the monks have had, the Greeks have had, the Roman Catholic Church has had, they used to actually, the Pope's vacation home is in Avignon. So the papal influence over the 600, 700, 800 years has been tremendous. So that gives you kind of a rough overview of Northern Rhone, Southern Rhone, soil. Someone's laughing.
Chad Angelo, the Methodist didn't.
The Methodists did not. The Methodists had no participation. I don't know why the Methodists were left out of that whole Rome expansion. So now we talk often in Napa and Sonoma about AVAs, and we learned last week about AOCs, Appellation Organization Contrôlée. It's a legal term. It's basically telling you, here's what you can grow here. Here's what ingredients must be. Here's what quantities must be. Here's what percentages must be. So there's a government standard with regards to that. In the Rhone, there's 30 plus of them, appellations. As we've talked about, soils and wind. Now, fascinating enough, last week in Bordeaux, we didn't talk about wind, but wind plays a factor in Bordeaux. And in the Rhone, it's a specific factor. And the Mistral winds, anybody ever heard of the Mistral winds besides the wine geeks? And yes, Scotland, excellent. Look, the Kiefers are on point tonight. They slept in, focusing. It's amazing. If you look at the greatest vintages from Bordeaux, 1947 is mentioned, 1961 is mentioned, 1982 is mentioned. And if you read and go through the vintage notes, in good record keeping areas like Parker's Guide to Bordeaux and some of the big thick books, you look at the wind, and they will attribute the wind to having a huge influence in those quote unquote vintages of the century. Because what happens is the wind dries up the soils. And when the wind is drying up the soil, then the grapes have to get more concentrated because they're fighting for moisture, they're fighting for nutrient. And within that concentration is an explosion of flavor. The Mistral winds happen every single year between winter and spring. And these are not something to fool around with. This is not good kite flying weather. Windsurfing maybe, but you will get tossed around. There is on record numerous times throughout history where these things are sustained at 25, 30 miles an hour, 24 hours a day for 3 to 4 days straight, nonstop. And it is a common natural phenomenon, happens every single year. And you have to kind of pay attention to it. And it is, these trees are grown, these are oak trees grown in Mistral winds. This did not happen one spring. This is over 50 plus years that these trees just succumb to the constant winds in the spring. It's incredible what these winds do. They play a major, major factor in the Rhone. Here you can see kind of the pattern of the winds through Bordeaux. And similarly, when they come out right down off the valley through the Rhone River, right out into the Mediterranean. And it is not something that you want to, when I said you shouldn't be windsurfing, you don't want to be out there. It is nasty, nasty stuff. And that's what this region has every single year, winter to spring. So when those two seasons converge, these winds are produced. It's a climactic condition that impacts the Rhone, goes all the way right down to Provence on the Mediterranean, and it has an influence in Provence as well. Fascinating little weather structure that plays a big role in the hardiness of the vines and i.e. the hardiness of the grapes. So very, very cool with regards to winds, soils, rocks. There's going to be a theme here. So Northern Rhone, they've got 9 appellations. The most famous is the Côte Rôtie. These are out of the 9, the Côte Rôties are the most expensive. They're the most famous. Syrah dominates red in the Rhone, dominates by law. Okay. There is some things to where it's the only red grape you can grow in the Northern Rhone. You can blend, as everyone recognizes, in the Northern Rhone, but what you may not understand or recognize or be familiar with is the predominance and proclivity of blending white grapes in the Rhone. So they're allowed to blend up to 20% Viognier in the Northern Rhone with Syrah, which is unusual, right? Thinking about blending Viognier. They also have Marsanne and Roussanne whites. They give it all sorts of different aromatics, different lift, different textures. Very, very interesting. Oh, by the way, everyone should be drinking. I apologize. So don't wait for me. So let's go Southern Rhone. Southern Rhone, to get, again, just how massively large it is, 23 appellations. 95% of all the Rhone wine comes from the Southern Rhone. If Syrah is king in the Northern Rhone, Southern Rhone, baby, all Grenache. Grenache, Grenache, Grenache. But they also do a tremendous amount of blending. Some of the famous appellations, or some of the ones that you'll focus on or see more predominantly, certainly CDP is the abbreviation for Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Châteauneuf is really, when you want to get to know French wines, first of all, the Rhone region is the gateway drug, because you usually just can't say, you know what, I'm going to start out with wine. I'm going to hit Burgundy. Most of us don't have the price book or wallet for Burgundy to start there. The Rhone has got unbelievable QPR, quality to price ratio. It's without a doubt one of the strongest areas in the world of wine to find blockbuster wines that will not break the bank. You know, $30, $40, $50, incredible. And these regions right here, CDP, Gigondas, and Tavel, produce some exceptional wines that have some distributions and import in the United States. But Châteauneuf-du-Pape, by the way, they blend 13 grapes in their wines, 13. And the majority of them are Syrah, Mourvedre, Cinsault, Quinois, Muscardin, Terret Noir, Claret, Grenache Blanc, and 25 more grapes in the Southern Rhone. So it's kind of like a giant buffet, and you're just making the plate that you want to plate, and you're just picking different grapes, and it's a blender's haven. And it's just a very, very special, magical place, because the food is just sumptuous, succulent, delicious, everything that runs the gamut, because you've got Northern Italy right there. So you have their influence. You've got Switzerland, and you've got obviously Southern France with the game, with the duck, with the pheasant, and all of these wines go so good with that. But last week, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know, we made a mistake because we didn't mention a very, very important thing about labels. So when you see a French wine label, 99% of the time, there is something missing on the French wine label. Anybody have an idea of what that is? I see people typing. I see Jim Brubaker talking. Peter Glick staring intently at the answers. Does anybody have a correct answer?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Scotland and Doug Rutherford.
Doug Rutherford, always first in the house. Spot on.
Scotland.
Yes, and Scotland. Correct. When you look at this label, there's no grapes. There, it doesn't say Chardonnay. It doesn't say Marsanne, Roussanne. It doesn't say Grenache. And I said 99% of the time, there has been a movement in the last 7 to 10 years where you will see French producers start to put the names of grapes on the wines. The sole reason for that is to appeal to the American consumer. So when you look at an American wine label, it will say Napa Valley, Cabernet Sauvignon. We always, actually, by the way, not just an American wine labels, not just California, New Mexico, Oregon, Washington, North Carolina. We put the names of the grapes on the bottle. So in France, when you are browsing the Cellar Angels website to figure out what French influenced wines do I want to have, or if you happen to be in a pension, you're at a wine store and you're looking at French labels, you now know what grapes are grown in the Rhone, at least 10 to 15 of them. Similarly with Bordeaux and the Bordeaux blends that we talked about, those 5 grapes. So France, they actually do things only by region. The name of the chateau, where the region is, will always be the largest font, where it came from, Côte de Rhône, and then a bunch of other things on the bottle. But once you start knowing the grapes that are grown in that region, you can navigate any French wine label. How we doing? Got through a lot of content there. That's normally a 4-week course at most colleges, by the way. Okay, so now let's take all of that knowledge of the Rhone, the soils, the wind, the varietals, and bring it to Napa. And we're going to start with Loomis Estates. And the first thing we're going to do is actually go back to our good friend, I think, Google Earth. Oh, I forgot to tell you to hang on.
Oh my word.
I'll give that a moment to settle. Whew. Next week, bring an air sickness bag for the Google Earth. Okay, so here you have Jeff Loomis's property. On top of a mountain, rocks everywhere, and adjacent to a very big valley that gets tons of wind. Tons of wind. So again, consistent theme here: wind, rocks, high elevation, steepness, steep slopes. Back at the presentation? Good. So now what you're drinking, if you have the Loomis, is a 2018 Rhone style blend. So we just talked about everything in Chateauneuf being blends, a lot of Northern Rhones being blends, mainly with Syrah based. And this is Jeff's Rhone style blend. So obviously he's only going to have Rhone varietals in it. It's Syrah. Mourvèdre, by the way, is an abbreviation for Mourvèdre. And that is a very, very popular Rhone varietal. Grenache and Counois. Jeff only plants Rhone varietals. He's the only one in Napa Valley 100% dedicated to Rhone varietals, which is crazy when you think about it, because Napa is obviously Cabernet and Chardonnay country and one of the most dominant areas in the world for those wines. But we talked about wind and rocks. So here you can see it again. This is Jeff walking through the vineyard. You have rocks everywhere. It's a mountainside. And you've got beautiful Grenache clusters just hanging in the sunlight, soaking up some rays, which is what we all like to do. And rocky soils, not too dissimilar to what we just saw. And basically, this is where he likes to thrive and grow these grapes on top of this property. It is a special, special place up there, and something to behold if you ever get a chance to go up there and meet with Jeff and taste wines. It is a sight to behold. It does not stink. So now I'm going to ask, like last week, if you want to unmute your microphone, because we are going to do the assessment. Let's assess this wine. Armchair. Look at Greg and Leah. They're ready for this. They took notes. They got prepared. White pieces of paper. There you go. So now color. I actually can't do the Loomis with you because I have the Lampierde in my glass. So let me know.
What do you think? Could just be like swirling.
I hear someone talking. Barbie. Scotland's typing frantically. Eric and Lauren, good to see you. Anybody, are you capturing colors? Mission control? What do we have up there? What do we have for colors? I can't see comments.
No colors yet.
No colors yet.
You should say.
Sorry, Martin, we have the Lampierde in our glass too, so I can't be a help.
Who's drinking
I
Loomis?
got the next one.
I know Jeff and Liz and Nelson are. What do we got for colors? Oh, and Doug.
Dark,
Beautiful.
opaque, ruby.
Yes.
Very good.
Very dark,
It is very dark.
darker than the Loomis.
No,
I mean, darker than the Lampierde, right?
And yeah, Lampierde. Yep.
I can say.
Let me see something.
How much about this?
I can't find it.
You get cherry
Those high notes.
for the aroma.
Oh, there it is.
This one's
Oh,
the
sure.
Lampierde stuff.
What do you say, Tim?
I'd say cherry. A little bit of
A little cherry?
No,
All right.
it's not a Cab Franc. You know, I don't.
No,
get cherry.
flavor. No, it is. It's got some
So-
some mineral.
So we're getting,
Minerality.
so we got medium purple red. That would be the
Dark
colors.
cherry.
Yeah.
Aromas right there. Cherry and dark chocolate.
Your tobacco leaf, that would be a soil.
That's your
garden soil,
cherry.
Your leather.
Garden soil. That's your.
Mm-hmm. It has a pepper.
You can tell all the Midwesterners, they know their garden soils.
Yeah, sure there, hey. Yeah.
Yes. And we also heard cherry a bunch of times from people. And so you're spot on. Lot of dark cherry. And what makes this wine so darn good with food is in fact that juicy acidity. And I keep pretending I have the Loomis on my glass, but I don't. But that acid that you can feel in the jowls, that is perfect for things like lamb. Lamb, very, very fat food, right? And lamb has a ton of, it can be tougher grained, especially grass-fed, but lamb, sausage, any game, we talked about game already because of the influence from Italy, southern France, Switzerland, multi-flavored dishes. This is not a wine that I would have with, just one steak, a linear type of flavor profile or palate. Have it with a stew, a blend of things where you have an explosion of flavors. That would be a great, great wine for the Loomis. And again, we talk about QPR. I'm sorry, yeah, great, great food. We talk about QPR and the quality to price ratio. It's very, very difficult to find a wine of this caliber in Napa Valley for $46. It's just insane. And the ability of this wine to pair with food and the diversity of the foods makes it really a crowd pleaser from that standpoint because of its versatility. And only 125 cases, just a lively, vivacious, fun, energetic wine. Very, very impressed with the Loomis on top of that hill. How come I can't see anybody? Where'd everyone go? Well, there we go. Nope.
On to that.
All right, let's just go on. I lost everyone. It's It's only my 35th Zoom of the day. All right, so we're moving on food pairing ideas we just talked about with Loomis. So now let's go on to the Lampyridae. If you remember when we featured Lampyridae on SIP, it was like SIP 30 something. We're now at SIP 48 because of all of you, the angels. You guys have some energy. I love it. We are indebted. So you have this 2018 Grenache, okay? $45 a bottle, 100% Grenache. This bottle I do have. John and Ashley Dorr are the proprietors of this estate. It is 100%, as I talked about, because the Loomis was a blend. This one is 100% Grenache. And there's a theme here. I talked about Rock and Rhone. It's the same thing in California. This is their vineyard. So this rock they didn't just buy at Home Depot and have shipped there. This came out of the vineyard. And when you see this valley here, this wind is screaming up there. As a matter of fact, during filming, when we were sitting on their patio, do you remember this? We were sitting on their patio. This umbrella flipped off the table, out of the center hole, up onto the roof and over the roof when we were sitting there having charcuterie. It is windy up here. It is rocky up here. And I'll show you another picture of the rocks. All these are rocks that they cleared from the vineyard. All of this stuff on the perimeter. This is, in fact, the communication block vineyard. And you can even see in here, there's just rocks everywhere. This would not be a farmer's field that they would relish plowing or throwing a disc in. No, thank you. This is very, very well-drained soil because of all the rocks. But this communication block is amazing. You can almost see the hue of color there just due to the stones. These guys, if you remember, for those of you that don't, just a great refresher, they produce a Cabernet from this vineyard that you just saw. They sell about 95% of that Cabernet to Beringer, and Beringer puts that Cabernet into their private reserve program. Their private reserve program is the upper echelon of every wine that Beringer offers. It's the highest marquee part of their portfolio. Those bottles start at about $150 a bottle. Their blend is, in fact, from Lampyridae. They also do a bunch of single vineyard designate wines in the Beringer private reserve program. The Lampyridae vineyard is one of them. Cabernet Sauvignon is not Ashley and John's favorite wine off the property. This is their favorite wine off the property, their Grenache. It used to be Zinfandel, but they have been converted to Grenache. They are huge Grenache fans. And a little bit is because kind of what we talked about with regards to how well this wine goes with so many things. But before we talk about food, let's talk about assessment. So what is happening here from a color, all of those that have Lampyridae?
Ruby.
Ruby.
Yep.
Ruby.
Oh, Ruby.
Anybody else have anything
Opaque.
opaque? Opaque seems to be the term du jour.
Oui, monsieur.
Literally the extent of my Spanish. I knew you'd catch that. Can't make that up. Ruby. Okay, I see everyone with Ruby.
Say it. Say it out loud. Go for it.
Mushrooms.
Come on.
Mushrooms.
Mushrooms, earthy.
Earthy.
Yeah, that's very good. Absolutely. There's definitely an earth component here, right?
A little wind, a little fire.
It might be that.
The cherry.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
Cherry. There's definitely some cherry there.
We were seeing.
I get more like
So we
dark
got-
berry, blackberry, blueberry kind of stuff as well.
So great call. A lot of dark fruits, right? It's not, this is what's so funny about tasting, because when you think about cherries, there's bright Bing cherry, there's dark cherry, there's black cherry. So it's pretty diverse. And that's one of the things you have to pay attention to from that standpoint. Good call on color. Look at Barbie, ruby, rosy, tart. I like that. Tart is a good descriptor term as well. And if you have some food nearby, and I know the Greaseys and Holdens do, it all depends. Hey, dip the, Eric and Lauren, this works like a charm. Dip the binky in the wine. It's totally allowed. No one is watching this. I'm not going to call DCFS. You're fine. You're fine. You don't think they do that in Italy for the last 1,000 years? The binky falls out. It's like into the olive oil, boom, right into the mouth. And a little bit of little red wine as well. All right, so let's see what the computer said as it relates to, I'm sorry, the tasting note panel said as it relates to colors, aroma, and palate.
Does wife's a pediatrician?
Uh-oh. So, bright ruby red. Well done, team. Well done. Aromas, cherry bonbons, cinnamon stick, caramel, dried leaf, peppercorn. So we were talking a little bit about that earthy mushroom composty aroma. Very popular in great French wines where you get that, you do get that that earthiness, that wet dirt type of thing. And it's a complimentary phrase, right? When you think wet dirt, you're like, yeah, that doesn't sound very flattering. But when anybody that's ever stepped through a field that has been recently plowed and you smell that fertile black earth, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's, you also get that dried leaf component to it. And of course, peppercorn. Those are the aromas: black cherry, vanilla bean, again, the acidity, medium body, smooth tannins, really, really good stuff on the tannins. Lingering finish. I didn't talk about the finish on the Loomis. There's definitely, when you take a sip of the Loomis and the Lamperde, that wine is in your mouth for a good 30 to 40 seconds. That's a hallmark of a great wine, is how long the finish is. Some wines finish like that, and it's not very appealing because it's over so quickly. And then you're looking for another sip of something because there's nothing there. These two wines do not have that. You are in for a rare treat. I saw the Holdens and Greaseys had like I mentioned earlier, a smorgasbord of charcuterie and meats and all sorts of stuff. You should try each of these with each one of those pieces of meat to see what the fat content does to the wine. This one, by the way, food pairings. Anybody want to fathom a guess for food pairings on this one? You're all on mute. Duck. Chad Angelo knocks it out of the park with duck. High inside fastball into the seats.
Rabbit.
Rabbit works. Liz and Nelson are going to eat okay.
Steak.
Okay. Smoked brisket. I like that idea. Smoked brisket works as well.
Lamb teasers.
Lamb teasers, John says.
No, lamb is absolutely a huge one with this wine. Lamb shanks, stews. What else would go with this? Roasts. Again, the roasts. Think about a slow cooked roast with this and that earthy component, the dark fruit component. You have mushrooms.
Short rib.
And by the way, short rib would be great. You know what else? It would be interesting that would shock the heck out of you. Meaty fish. A very thick fish with a high fat content, perhaps on the grill, would be stunning with this. You could enjoy it with chocolate.
Where do you get that in Chicago, Martin?
You have to come down to Naples.
Pheasant would be good.
Yep, pheasant, anything like that. The duck, the pheasant, any game would be amazing in that capacity. So that is, oh yeah, deer would be good. I totally forgot about venison. I'm not prone to eating Bambi, but knock yourself out. Next week, hunting. Won't be doing that. There's the thing about it is you could have a juicy burger, but you want to make certain that the burger has on it maybe red pepper, mushrooms, cheese, and stuff like that. So you've got all these multiple flavors going on at the same time, because that's what these wines are made for. They're made for hearty dishes, because think about the Mistral winds. and just essentially you need to be able to stand up to those winds. So it builds a character, not only in the individuals and the culture of people there, but also the wines. It's a fun region to go and see. And now, if you were paying attention, I know that Nick Schramm is up $100. He's going to let it all ride. The most planted varietal in the Northern Rhone is?
No Googling.
I see anybody pull out a smartphone, I will come to your house. Why can't I see anybody voting?
Can we
can't.
can't vote? Mike. Yeah, we can't vote.
You can't vote.
Oh, because they're panelists.
Oh,
They
yeah,
got
yes.
just put their answers in the.
All right. I'm sitting here watching the grid. Nothing's happening. That's a bug. I'm going to report this to Zoom. All right. So type your answer. Thank you, Ivy. I cannot run this program without
Thanks,
mission
Ivy.
control. Type your answer in the chat. Oh, by the way, here, I'll give you the options. You had Grenache, Syrah, Merlot, or Roussanne. Oh, these guys were paying attention.
Give the answer away.
Laurel, Liz and Nelson. Laurel, Liz and Nelson.
Do you want to?
If you would like to change your answers, you could. Awesome. Yes, in the Northern Rhone, Syrah is king by hands down by such an overwhelming margin. It's not even funny. Now, poll question number 2 is interesting. And since you can't see anything, I will just read it to you. If I had my choice to attend a luxury Cellar Angels cruise or custom wine trip, I would select Bordeaux, the Rhone, or Napa. Liz and Nelson have said yes to all 3 of them.
It's actually.
And Jim and Jane, or Jeff and Jane. I'm not even sure who's at that house.
It's Jeff and Nelson.
All of the above, Laurel Robbins. That was not an answer. We're going to make you choose. Ivy, you can't vote. Okay, I do see Meredith Davis with Rhone, Barbie Heffernan Rhone, Nick Schramm Rhone, Pete Glick. Pete, you're on a first name basis with a chateau in Bordeaux, aren't you? Pete's our tour guide in Bordeaux. I'm not certain why we couldn't cram 2 of these into one trip. Exactly. It looks like Jim Brubaker wants to go to North Platte, Nebraska.
Yeah, that is true.
I'm not going to North Platte. I've been there too many times driving to Colorado.
No, you need French lessons before we go.
I do need French lessons before we go. All right. Doug. I thought Denise was saying that. It's Doug saying that.
I'm the resident smartass tonight.
No, that's an open position. There's always vacancy in that role. That is outstanding. I do need French lessons. I think the Rhone was basically the hands down winner in that. So it is. I can tell you it is in the works, and it's not anytime soon. But I can tell you what is happening soon. As I saluted all of you and the angels that aren't on, what you've done for the charity of Save the Family Farms when you select them for purchasing. And it's one of the things we hear quite often is the hardest thing is to pick a charity because there's so many good causes. We're not going to make that any easier because in the coming weeks, we're adding 2 new charities. And it's just going to be one of those scenarios where you're just going to say, get 3 friends and each one of you pick a different charity. So we've got them all covered. But keep your eyes peeled for a couple new charity announcements coming up. We're very, very excited about them. They are going to be in one area we do have a little bit of an influence and exposure to already. Another area is a brand new discipline to help out, which I think is vitally important right now. And it's going to be interesting. I think you're all going to like it. So 2 new charity partners coming up. And let us go here. Your Rhone crash course to Napa. That was pretty good. You guys did amazing. As Denise says, whew, Not that many technical challenges on this end, but quite a few that we will try to rectify before next week. You did it. Very, very good segment. Lots of good feedback. Thank you for all of that. Literally, and we say this every week, it bears repeating, can't do this without you and the referrals and the contacts and the wine and helping us help you get great wine into your hands. It's literally a blast and we love it. Next week, the Cabernet debate. Been waiting. It's like a MMA fight. It's going to be Cabernet. I think we're doing Napa versus Sonoma. It's going to be very interesting from a Cabernet standpoint. The best wine club in America has shipped. Those of you in wine club, get ready. This is a doozy. And we are still having people trying to get into wine club to backfill. But once you miss the date, I think the phrase that the young kids use is SOL. So you've got to be in the club, probably not young kids. And I think you get it.
The old kids.
The old kids. Let's raise a glass, everybody. Ivy, get your screen grab ready.
Here's turn off here.
Oh, I have to stop sharing. That would work. There we go. Cheers. Can't do this without you. Don't want to do it without you, quite honestly. So thank you so much, everybody. Smiles. Hi, Sean. Holden's and Greasy's. I love it, love it, love it. Jim Brubaker got his wine club yesterday. Jim, that does not look like Colorado, but I'll take it. Oh, maybe it's your backyard in the summer. That's it on this one. Classes dismissed. No one has to stay after school. So thank you so much for attending another Friday. Like I said, next week is Cabernet. Do yourselves a favor, drink up, cherish everything we have because it's plentiful, and be good to one another. Thank you so much for all the help. Love doing this with you. Cheers.